Yep.
Okay, folks, welcome to the January 6th, 2021 Board of Selectmen meeting. I have no announcements. I will recognize that we have CTS TV here, and there's an iPhone that I don't recognize. Would that be Mary Ellen?
It
No, it's
probably
not.
is.
So,
Yeah.
well, I don't know. That could be Clarence, or it could not be.
Yeah, I don't have
Anyway.
I don't have any other data. I've asked to unmute several times and not gotten a response, but I mean,
Okay.
you know, it's a public meeting. They're not declared that they're recording. They're not permitted to do so.
Okay. Nonetheless, let's proceed. As required by new state regulations, let's please announce our presence at the meeting today, please.
Ed Lane.
Mary Beth Mitz.
Dave Roach.
Warren Archie.
And Neil Maximilian. Thank you, folks. As I said, I have no announcements from the chair. We have announced ourselves and who is recording the meeting. So I will move into looking for a motion to accept the minutes of December 22nd.
So
I will
moved.
make a motion to accept the minutes of December 20, what was the date?
22.
2022.
Second.
Comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Are there any members of the public that wish to speak? Okay, hearing none, and our mystery iPhone not speaking up, we will move on. I note, Chris, that you're still in your office safely, having no intruders battering down the doors. Consent agenda is relatively simple. We have two donation acceptances. Well, we have donation acceptances to two departments, I should say it that way. Chris, Chief O'Brien is seeking your approval of monetary donations to the fire department, and Chief Steve O'Brien is seeking your approval of monetary donations to the police department. Without comment, may I have a motion to accept the consent
I'll
agenda?
make a motion to accept the consent agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, now is the point we move on to general business, and our town manager, Chief Administrative Officer, Chris Ketchen, has prepared a presentation on the beginnings of our town budget. Take it away, Chris.
You're muted.
Or your mic is very low if not muted, Chris.
Yeah, you're muted.
Chris, can you hear me? Thumbs up or down?
I can hear you.
Okay, so Chris, we're having trouble hearing you. We see your mouth moving. It does not appear that you're muted, but we don't hear you.
I apologize. Has anything improved?
That's a little better. Just a little though.
Yeah.
Can you say something?
I'm looking around to try and find a way to boost my volume, and I'm not. Nothing's forthcoming.
That's
At your
not so
current-
bad here.
Your
better.
current volume is good. Might I suggest, folks, maybe while he presents, we mute ourselves so ambient noise is down. And then when we want to say something, we'll be able to, feel free to unmute yourselves if you need to interrupt to ask, or not interrupt, but ask Chris a question.
And
ahead, Chris.
I will attempt to move quickly in light of our technology challenge here. So. I'm going to share my screen here in a moment.
Oh, really?
All right. So I'm going to stop my video to see if that helps also with the bandwidth. So the shared screen in front of you, which can everyone see that?
Mhm.
Okay. This is the material that I was distributed to the board members electronically prior to tonight's meeting. I will very briefly attempt to describe the preliminary budget for FY22. As you can see, this is the summary sheet for the operating budget and other expense lines proposed in the preliminary fiscal 2020 budget plan. We're looking at a total budget of $29.5 million. That's the bottom line, the total amount to be raised. A total operating budget of 25.8 million. A couple of the highlights on this page will be the notable resumption of our cash capital plan for the various departments, and also the resumption of several savings line items for fire apparatus, which would be the $225,000 appropriation under miscellaneous articles. Additionally, there's a resumption of our OPEB strategy, which I will discuss in a moment. On the flip side of the ledger, there's of course, there's the $29.5 million to be raised. Where that is derived from is a combination of local revenue sources, state aid, free cash, and of course the property tax levy, which makes up the bulk of the burden on the revenue side. To balance the budget in light of our various other revenue sources, we will be looking at a $16.4 million levy required for the preliminary FY22 budget. So I'll hit the highlight page, which really is the crux of where these conversations always lead. What's the impact on the tax levy? So you'll see in the slide that I've shared, and this will be the last page in your packet. We're looking at a fiscal 2022 tax levy increase of 2.5%, which is a resumption of the more or less stable and standard model that we've pursued in years past, with the notable exception of last year, where we held the levy flat in light of the economic hardships in light of the COVID-19 pandemic. If I can bring us back to the main page, I can summarize some of the highlights of the preliminary budget. So as I mentioned before, we're going to be returning to a 2.5% growth trend in our tax levy after a year of 0% increase due to economic factors. There's $875,000 in proposed general fund capital requests that are funded through free cash in this budget. That's up from a absolute cut in light of last year's economic circumstances. So last year we did not do any general fund capital requests. We're going back into our aggressive capital plan to the tune of $875,000 under this preliminary proposal. We've reduced our reliance on free cash to balance the operating budget. Last year we used $406,000 in free cash to balance the operating budget. This year we're proposing to drop that back to $300,000, which more or less equates to the lost revenue from having a 0% tax levy increase last year. Recall last year when we dropped from 2.5% tax levy increase to 0 in light of the economy, that was a $315,000 revenue loss to the town. So we're more or less going back to free cash to fund that shortfall. And you'll see in the out years, we're attempting to phase out of that entirely and get back to 0 use of free cash. The operating budget provides for efficiencies and realignments in most of our departments. We're truing up costs in other departments that leads to, in some cases, an increase. And we're looking for the addition of 1 FTE in our police department as well. We're proposing to bring back OPEB funding, not in its full $575,000 amount, which was about $540,000 to the general fund. Instead, we're going about halfway. We're going $250,000 back into our OPEB plan. One thing that is probably worth reconsideration at this point is whether we want to save that $250,000 towards our OPEB liability, or whether we want to start attacking long-term pension reserve obligations. So that's a conversation that's worth having as we go through the budget process, leading up to a decision point both at the end of the month and then ultimately a town meeting. And then finally, as I had said earlier, we're looking at funding some of our reserve accounts in fire and EMS. So this is the annual appropriation to fund future apparatus purchases, both in terms of fire trucks and ambulances, so that we can pay for cash rather than bonding. That's this item right here under miscellaneous articles. So this is what's known. This is all based on what we know at this point in time. There are a couple of remaining unknowns in the preliminary budget. Specifically, the school department has not yet finalized their budget proposal. So we've used the 3% placeholder that we use every year in anticipation of the school budget request coming in for the purposes of this model that's in front of you. And then our state aid is also unknown, so we've made modest assumptions around our future state aid figures. And what has always been traditionally a high level of uncertainty around health insurance, I think, is actually looking more optimistic this year than it may have in years past. So while that remains an unknown figure, we haven't set rates yet. The status of the trust being very healthy in terms of fund balance, in my estimation, may not require any upward rate adjustments from the Berkshire Health Group. So the figures that you see in front of you, as well as the budget detail I provided to the board members, reflects those assumptions. Getting back to the tax levy dashboard, where we're looking at that 2.5% projected levy impact for FY22, that would result in a $3.6 million excess levy capacity, or a growth of relatively healthy $200,000 in that line. So I will bring this back and I'll start my video again. And I'll stop sharing my screen. So that's the preliminary look at the budget. We've got until the end of the month to make further refinements. I would anticipate, as in years past, lots of conversation between now and the end of the month, where we answer questions and we work through a couple of details. We perhaps make amendments. We absorb and compensate for new information, both positive and adverse in nature. So that is probably the best way that I can summarize what's in front of you at this point. And I can take any questions that you have now, or we can save those for another time, whatever your pleasure.
Thank you, Chris. I'll point out, if it hasn't already been pointed out, that Chris sent this around to each of us around 5 o'clock this afternoon. So the copy of what he just shared to us, everybody should have in their inbox.
Good point, Neil. It's, obviously too early to digest this. I think all of us are going to have to do that in the coming days and talk with town manager, set up a meeting and actually go in and go over the numbers and talk things over. As always with the budget, it's the unknowns that always scare me. And the school department is an unknown. And I just want to say that obviously this year has been who knows? I mean, the worst year ever as far as different things they had to do. And I'm sure it cost them money. There's no getting around it. It didn't cost them money. But I'm sure that, they should have, and in my opinion, I think, saved money in other areas. And I hope that the school department is going to work with the town and realize those savings. I mean, with their new expenses and come in at a reasonable number. That's what I'm hoping.
Yes, Ed, I agree with you on that. Chris and I spoke briefly on this. I'm convinced that the school committee, and in particular the superintendent, is aware of our position on this, our desired outcome, and is cognizant of that. I'm hopeful, maybe I'm just over optimistic, that maybe there will be some funds to return based on, obviously there's expenses related to what's gone on, but there may be savings as well. You just don't know, but I don't, I can't speak for them at this point. Hopefully they will have something to us soon.
So, if I may, I should wait. Are there other questions for me? Because I have one more item that I wanted to bring up that I failed to bring up. So if you wanted to leave this discussion on a note of optimism, which in this day and age, we certainly should try to do where we can. We did receive our quarterly state rooms tax payment last week, and the number was remarkable. Quite frankly, we received a quarterly payment of $539,000, and that, when coupled with the over $500,000 we received earlier in the year, places us at over the $1 million mark for just the first 6 months of the sixth fiscal year. When out of an abundance of caution, we budgeted $900,000 for the entire fiscal year when we set the budget. So if we're looking for some note of optimism, in spite of everything that we've been through in the last year, I think that certainly provides it. There's a desire for folks to be in Lenox, and the tax receipts, even without the cultural amenities available to them, and that reflects itself in our excise tax payments that we've realized year to date. So any additional funds that come in will contribute to our fund balance total, which will help offset future capital spending.
Remind me not to play poker with you, Chris.
Yeah, I kind of buried the lead a little bit. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Very good news.
So that was all I had to report for tonight. Again, it's preliminary. There's lots of details to sift through, and there's some more information on big numbers coming in. So we will respond appropriately when that happens.
Well, thank you for finishing on a high note. We've got lots of information in front of us to digest. I'm hoping that you will, sorry, we're getting a police call or something in here or something.
We're getting a little bit of feedback.
Anyway, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm getting, anyway, hopefully you can share with us when we do indeed get the school and other budgets or other unknowns tweaked and nailed down. And we'll continue to refine it as necessary and discuss it at our next meeting.
I look forward to doing that.
Anybody else with comments on the preliminary budget?
No, I think it's going to be an important discussion that we have regarding OPEB versus the Berkshire County retirement payment. So, after we have a chance to digest all this information, I think at our next meeting, that'll be a very good time to discuss those additional issues.
Yeah.
Thanks for all this.
Yeah.
For all this information, Chris. It's good to have.
Yep. Okay, we'll move on. Do folks have liaison reports they wish to discuss?
I do.
Go ahead, Mary Beth.
Okay, so most importantly, the Master Plan Commission has been working for about 2 years now on our new town's master plan. That incorporates every aspect of town planning with regard to land use, economic development, open space, housing, historical and cultural services, regular town services and facilities, and transportation. We're going to start having our public sessions so we can introduce the data and the goals and objectives that have been drafted for the new master plan. We're going to have 4 general sessions with the public. The first one is going to be February 1st at 7 p.m. It's going to be a general overview of the master plan, the process that the steering committee went through, the committee's key findings, goals, and objectives. On February 6th, which is a Saturday, we're going to have another public meeting at 2 p.m. All these meetings are going to be via Zoom. So, people can do this from the comfort of their homes. All of the master plan in each of the chapters will be posted on the town website. So, people can go there at their leisure and read each section. And I've given Mary Ellen an entire list of meetings so that she can include these in the minutes, because I know this is a lot of information. So we're going to have a meeting February 1st at 7 p.m., which is a Monday night, February 6th, which is a Saturday afternoon, or I'm sorry, a Saturday morning, February 8th, which is another 7 p.m. Monday meeting. That will go into the breakout sessions for each section of the master plan. And for that one, it's going to be land use, economic development, open space and recreation, and housing. And then on March 1st, we're going to have breakout sessions for historical and cultural, services and facilities, and transportation. And finally, on March 15th, which I believe is another Monday night, we'll have our last meeting, which will be the implementation strategy. So we tried to boil these down into a manageable implementation strategy, at least for the first year. So all of the staff at the town, Gwen Miller and our land use assistant will be posting the draft documents on our website no later than January 15th. And we'll also have video presentations that will be available for everybody's review, and they'll be available on the website after each one of these sessions so that people can go back and look at them. But what we're really looking for here is public input as to, did the steering committee get the goals for the next 20 years of our master plan? Did we get them right? Are these the objectives that ideally we want to go for in each one of these topic areas? Because essentially what the master plan does is lay out every opportunity that the town may have to go after federal and state monies for projects that, you know, we might want to accomplish in the next few years. This is a 20-year document, so it's very exhaustive. It's highly inclusive, so that anything the federal government could possibly, you know, disperse some money for, hopefully we will have one of those objectives or a goal related to that funding, so that should we apply for funding, we would get the most points and we would win that funding. So it's complicated, but it's really important. And I hope that, you know, each one of you can make a session or make a couple of sessions, because it's a very good document. And the steering committee has been terrific. They've really put their all into it. I've got to give them a lot of credit. So that's the Master Plan Commission. The Affordable Housing Trust is going to be having a discussion with Salisbury Bank on Friday. Salisbury Bank has a municipal division, and we're negotiating with them to enter into a letter of credit, so that we'll be able to exercise the options that we have on 3 homes that a developer is rehabilitating in Lenox, so that we can then turn around and resell those homes to income eligible households for affordable home ownership. So we've been proceeding with that. We've also had a person has resigned from the trust, Mindy Morin. She has been a terrific participant on the trust. She has been very vested in workforce housing, general manager of Canyon Ranch, and is looking out for her employees and other hospitality personnel in the Berkshires, looking for affordable rental and ownership opportunities for them. She's got other things on her plate now, so she's resigned. So we have an opening on the trust. I know that we have one application from someone who is a committee member who would like to be on the trust, but I just wanted to make this public announcement that we will be entertaining any letters from the public who may be interested in serving on the trust. They should submit a letter to the select board, to Mary Ellen Deming, no later than January 19th, because I would like to present viable candidates to the select board so that we can fill the position at the next select board meeting. If that meets with your consent. And finally, the Cultural Council is looking at their grant applications. So they're reviewing up to 30 grant applications that they've had for their funding for the coming year. And the Lenox Cultural District will be conducting its quarterly meeting with all the Berkshire Culturals in the next week. And that's a very large stakeholder meeting. And that's happening shortly as well. And that's all I have.
Thanks, Mary Beth. Others? Go ahead, Ed.
Yeah, I just wanted to, kind of a sad note, but I wanted to mention the passing of our lead town administrator, former lead town administrator, Bob Nason. You know, Bob was very instrumental and very supportive and helpful in our shared services and, you know, the CAO and everything. And many of our board members worked pretty closely with him. And he was a real stand-up guy. You know, I really liked him, and just wanted to mention that. But it was a good guy, and it was a passed suddenly Tuesday, I guess. And so kind of sad, but I just wanted to mention that.
Thanks for doing that, Ed. Well, if no others have anything, I would just wanted to report on school briefly. If we continue to proceed as planned, we will return to the hybrid school model from the current remote model on the 19th. And the school committee just recently voted to resume outdoor sports activities. So that means that Nordic and cross-country skiing will resume practice as an organized sport under the school guidelines. The Nordic team, the cross-country team rather, has been practicing independently as a club, but will now be back coached by the school coaches as of the 19th, pending everything panning out with the plan to return to the hybrid model and kids in school. I could not attempt to explain to you the intricacies of interscholastic activities and people being in school as a requirement for conducting school athletics, but they are intertwined, which is why even though some outdoor sports have been announced as being COVID safe, we haven't been able to participate without having kids attend school at least some of the time. But that will change on the 19th as of today. And that is really what I have. Okay, well, a reminder that our next meeting is Wednesday, the 20th. And with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, folks, thank you for your time. Everybody be safe. And thanks for all the hard work. Chris, thanks for your presentation tonight.